This is the Orioles Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Baltimore Orioles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Locked On Orioles Postcast. My name is Luke Slaybaugh, your postgame show host after every Baltimore Orioles game that you and I can stand this 2025 season. As a reminder, Connor Newcomb still runs the main Locked On Orioles show 5 days a week. If you support this show, you support the greater podcast effort as a whole. Let's all be friends here. Thank you for listening live on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts for free. As you may recall, this is my first time back here in the studio for the first time in 6 days. I was out of town for a friend's wedding. And I'll be honest, I looked down at my phone Friday and I thought, my goodness, Dean Kramer did it. Like 7 innings of shutout ball. And I was hoping, best case scenario, that Baltimore would sweep Kansas City, and then I would come in here on Tuesday and just get lit up in the comments section. I wanted to go to battle, and I was ready. I wanted a 3-game winning streak for the O's. So remember that guy a couple weeks ago that was like, stop doing these postcasts. Ever since you've been here, the Orioles have stunk. The correlation, causation, blah. I don't care about criticism that way, but I was ready. I was ready to use the words as weapons and to battle it out. Unfortunately, it's kind of the same old for Baltimore, and we're talking about it again tonight with a 9-1 loss to the Minnesota Twins up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Left-hander Cade Povich going up against right-hander Pablo Lopez. The O's historically done very well against the Twin Cities. Dating back to 2023, they had won 10 straight games, and it looked through the first 2 frames that left-hander Cade Povich was going to make that 11, dealing 30 pitches through 2 innings, had the Twins guessing. Really good breaking stuff, curveball low and away, the kick change as well, a really good weapon added to his arsenal. But unfortunately, as has been the case, 1 bad inning sinks the O's again.
This is what you'll be talking about.
So home plate umpire Ron Kolpa was calling a big, juicy strike zone, expanding down low and into several batters, and it kind of bit the O's in the tail a couple of times, particularly with Kobe Mayo at the plate and Cedric Mullins as well. We will talk about that in the next block. But so often this season, for a team that is now 8 games under 500, we have discussed the threading of the needle, so to speak, towing the tightrope of success. When one thing goes awry, a missed catch, an error, a booted ball, a missed play, then things tend to snowball. And it was exactly the case tonight. As I had mentioned, 30 pitches through 2 innings for Cade Povich, and then Jonah Bride, the leadoff hitter in the third, just hits a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, pops it up to Ryan Mountcastle in foul territory. 1 pitch, 1 out. And at that point, you start to see the wheels churning. You're thinking, wow, Cade Povich can string together a couple really good outings. Like this is, if you can get a 9-pitch inning and really go toe-to-toe with Pablo Lopez, this could have been a really intense game. In fact, if you take out this 3rd inning that we're about to talk about, Cade Povich's line, and I kid you not, 5 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, no walks, no homers, 4 strikeouts, and 73 pitches. Now that in and of itself, in a little silo, is a great pitching performance. However, in baseball, you do not get a mulligan. As I had mentioned, the kick change and the curveball working really well for Povich, and he decided to either abandon them in the 3rd or not command them and just completely lost where he was throwing the ball. Willie Castro singles up the middle, curveball at 80 miles an hour. Cool. Excuse me. Before that, Larnach hits a single, 93-mile-an-hour fastball, 5-pitch at bat. So back-to-back singles. And where it really starts to snowball is after 2 runners are on and 1 in scoring position, Byron Buxton hits an RBI to left field. Dylan Carlson, playing in the corner, plays that ball really well off the wall and fires it home. So the cutoff man is hit and only 1 run scores. Doesn't exactly matter. Jeffers, the next batter, hits a 2-run single. And this one, high and in. He kind of inside outs it to right field, 2-run score, including Buxton makes it a 3-0 ball game. I'll add that Buxton's pitch that he cranked to left was a curveball that was left high. Ty France flies out to Cedric Mullins, and then 3 pitches later to Carlos Correa, who had been struggling for most of the season. This is a 92-mile-an-hour fastball that's left just super high and out over the plate. And that was hit into the second deck, making a 5-0 ball game in that 2-run home run. And by the end of it, Cade Povich has doubled his pitch count in 1 inning, 30 pitches in that inning. Kobe Mayo playing third base didn't do him a lot of favors either, booting the ball. That was the lesser of 2 errors. And again, I got thoughts on the Orioles' top prospect coming up in the next block. And it seemed like this was so avoidable given how well Povich's outing went for 5 innings. He was shut down after that. He retired the last 10 batters he faced dating to that inning. So hear me out on this. Here's my takeaway. No, one of many takeaways, but something that I think is food for thought. There are too many timeouts in sports as it is, too many stoppages in play. And in fact, when MLB rolled out its rule changes a couple of years ago, a lot of it was trying to minimize the downtime between pitches, between at-bats, making sure that fans were engaged and that the pace of play was increased and there was a sense of urgency in the game. That has overwhelmingly succeeded, and baseball stands to make a lot of money off of these moves, and the game is a lot more exciting. It's energetic. The rhetoric around baseball and the experience has changed. Some people are always going to say, oh, I can't do baseball games. It's too lazy, blah, 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 blah. But you and I know it's changed. And therein lies a competitive advantage for hitters, and especially on the offensive side of the ball when you have a rally going. Teams are limited into the amount of times that they can go out and try to console, or that's not the right word, try to calm down a pitcher, get the nerves, get the kinks out, get the scouting report out, get the mechanics corrected. I like to call it the Yadier Molina rule, where, I mean, anytime in the Cardinals, dynastic heyday, whenever something started to spiral for a pitcher, starter, reliever, didn't matter. Either Tony La Russa or Yadier Molina was out to the mound. 1 runner gets on, 2 out walk, a misplayed ball. And MLB has said no more of that. And it does change the cadence of the way that a catcher calls a game. Adley Rutschman is young. I do not put any of this on him. I will say that after those 2 singles, why is Drew French not out there? You have a 25-year-old left-handed pitcher who stands to learn something to try to minimize the damage here. He's about to go up against former first-round draft pick and just an absolute stud in Byron Buxton. The odds do not favor him either way. So you might as well get him prepped on the scouting report, get whatever it is, just give him a break. You're allotted they say 4, but it's technically 5 mound visits in a game, because if you run out of mound visits in the 9th inning, you just get a free one. I think that's too many as it is, because we like the cadence of the game. If you limited it to 2 or 3, I mean, that's the thing with basketball right now, and football as well. What do you need 5 timeouts for in the NBA? Nothing. In college, why do you need more than 2 timeouts and a half? It's ridiculous. Let the players play. But in this instance, you have to use that rule to your advantage. And I'm not saying that would have fixed anything, but it certainly would have broken up the momentum in the game. This is not, it is kind of a harebrained theory, but O's pitchers need all the help they can get. That is a takeaway. And credit to Cade Povich for putting the team on his back and getting through 6 in 103 pitches. It's May now. They're not using kid gloves on the pitchers. Retires the last 10 he faces. Way to take it on the chin. Now, I've teased the plate approach, and there wasn't much of one when you only stand to get 3 hits in a game. Yeah, 3 hits and a couple walks there at the end. Less than ideal. There were some things that we liked against Pablo Lopez, but just ultimately baffled. And when you strike out 17 times in a game, I don't know what to tell you, man. There was a very realistic episode today from my counterpart Connor Newcomb on the main show about down to earth reasons why this thing ain't working out and why the rebuild has kind of come off as a broken promise. We're going to talk about some things at the plate that really grinded my gears, as well as my first time seeing Kobe Mayo. And there's we're going to talk about it after the break. I'm a little bit rusty as we come back from a wedding weekend in Houston, Texas. And I was checking my bank account and I was like, all right, had to buy a new belt. The old one was getting out of shape and went with like the faux snakeskin one. The groom very much told me, Luke, do not push it, do not try it. And then he showed me Monarch Money and it said, hey, you got to keep track of your money and make sure that Whataburger is not the only thing you spend money on. You don't spend too much of it. It's not just for budgeting, obviously, it's a command center for your finances. And you can track everything from your investments to your spending to your accounts. So you can not only stop hyper fixating on your money, but you can start building wealth. And if there's one thing we're doing here tonight on the Orioles Postcast, it's making money. Managing money with your partner, if you so choose to have one. I assume if you're up watching this, you don't. You can do it really easily. If I ever get married one day, we're still doing the postcast, but we'll use Monarch Money as well to manage our spending goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. You can use the code Locked On MLB at monarchmoney.com. That's all one word, Locked On MLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code Locked On MLB for half off your first year. Nothing better than taking in a baseball game. Have not been to Target Field yet, but one of these days we will. And when we do, unless Locked On gives me those sweet, sweet credentials, we're using Gametime. Last minute deals, all in pricing, lowest price guaranteed. Gametime is just going to take the stress out of it. You get a better value as the game time approaches. The ticket prices go down. It's the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and we're happy to have them. They have the Gametime Picks feature, makes finding the best deals effortless, filters out the fluff and the highlights and the top discounts all over the stadium. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app and you use the code, all one word, Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. You create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. It's Gametime. Also being brought to my attention that we have a live listener and viewer all the way from the People's Republic of Austria. So we want to say hi to those folks as well, tuning in from Vienna. Good for you. The O's did one thing right at the plate, which was see a lot of pitches against Pablo Lopez. By the end of the day, Pablo went 5 and threw 98. 58 of those from the right-hander for strikes. And while that is good in theory and on paper, given that the point of this offense is to pass the baton to the next hitter and keep the game going, unfortunately, there weren't a lot of results to show for it. 11 strikeouts, including 7 whiffs on the four-seam fastball, 5 total strikeouts via the four-seam fastball. And Lopez was sitting around 94, 95 for most of those, was able to take a little bit off of it as well, but it didn't seem to ameliorate the situation for the Orioles hitters. And by my count, they were 1 for 3, check that 1 for 6 towards the end with runners in scoring position. But bulk of that, they didn't have a whole lot of opportunities against Pablo Lopez. It's not really a timing thing. Sure, I hope it's not. They couldn't catch up to the run on that fastball. What grinds my gears is how some of these guys went down looking. Ron Kolpa had expanded the strike zone down to the knees, to the shins. Mullins took one that looked pretty iffy, and Mayo as well was very dejected and kind of angry. He's just getting his sea legs at the major league level and went down looking as well. Dylan Carlson has yet to record his first hit as an Oriole. And in the words of Stained and Aaron Lewis, it's been a while. Like it's been too long. And he probably had his best at bat in the top of the 5th, 8 pitches, ends by looking at a fastball 94, 95 down the middle. Obviously wasn't sitting on it or didn't expect it, but there's kind of no solace to be taken out of this one. Either they didn't recognize it out of the pitcher's hand, or they just couldn't catch the run on the fastball, but it did not appear to be dominant. We did see Ryan Mountcastle hit an RBI double, Gunnar Henderson scoring. After having reached via the walk, he continues to get on base in his return. And we'll wrap this up. Finally, first time seeing Kobe Mayo, brought up out of necessity, not exactly extraordinary performance. He had turned on at AAA Norfolk. He was sitting with an 869 OPS and 6 home runs, but finishes 1 strikeout shy of a sombrero. Dating back to last year, where he had struck out at a 40% clip of his limited time in the major leagues, there's a hole in the swing, and you could see it in his lack of anticipation for anything other than the fastball early on against Pablo Lopez. He looked pretty ugly on a couple swing and misses at curveballs in the dirt. Even worse is the errors in the field. The first one in the bottom of the third, understandable, playing the backhand, didn't quite get it. I get that. But the second one later, shuffling to his left, was more of a focus thing. It was in and out of the glove, and you could tell at that point he was just inconsolable, I would say, or just kind of flustered at that point. You saw him kind of tap his chest and say, "My bad." Like, that was, there's a baby draft thing going on here. And Jim Palmer even hinted at it with his plate approach, is that he is not quite yet grown into his body. Like, there's a lot of size and a lot of strength there, but not able to be harnessed in anything remotely graceful. To be put at the hot corner, where usually Ramon Urias has that locked down, or Jordan Westberg, it's a tall task for anyone. The hot corner is less than desirable. And again, Kobe Mayo was brought up out of need. They needed bodies. And this is a situation not unlike Heston Kjerstad or Jackson Holliday, where you have to make lemonade. Kobe Mayo in particular is not going to be guaranteed much of a spot on this roster unless things go completely south. But when you already have 10 plus players, probably a dozen now on the IL, it's next man up. So there's a chance to iron things out. Probably prioritizing development here over the actual winning of games. And by the time Cionel Perez got in and Matt Bowman gave up that 3-run home run to Buxton, it was, that was another crooked number, but the O's weren't winning this game by the time it got to the 7th inning. It was telling that when Cade Povich left the game, the floodgates kind of opened again. But a 1-run effort, and again, that crooked number given up by Povich, has this road trip off to a milquetoast start. First 11 series, the Orioles' opponent winning percentage was .528. So they were going up against better than average competition. And in their attempt to tread water, they did not succeed, and again have fallen 8 games under .500. The next 8 series, including this one against Minnesota, a .435 winning percentage. So perhaps a little bit more smooth sailing, but again, pitching put them behind the 8 ball, and the holes in the swings, or the lack of discipline and lack of adjusting to the pitch arsenal, and again, not doing anything special against the Twins bullpen, is rough. It was interesting that the Twins, a couple weeks ago, we had mentioned they had the worst batting average against left-handed pitchers in baseball. They were a really disastrous 141, and now over time they've now gotten that up into the 210s, 220s, and the Orioles are still sitting down there at the bottom. So we move on and onwards to tomorrow, 7:40 pitch on MASN. Who's pitching? I don't know. As of the live recording of this podcast, we have no official name announced. If they have announced on the MASN postgame show, we ain't listening. We ain't watching. But the projected starter is right-hander Simeon Woods Richardson for the Twins, 4.03 ERA, 2-2 record overall. That'll be it. But as we wrap things up here on the Baltimore Orioles postcast, you break that 10-game win streak to Minnesota. The pitching takes another step backwards, and the plate approach leaves a lot to be desired. So I got some jet lag. I'm recovering, and it so appears that the Orioles are as well. But they'll look to right the ship tomorrow in Game 2 against the Minnesota Twins. Final score tonight: the Minnesota Twins 9 and the Baltimore Orioles 1. Thanks so much for watching here live on YouTube and for listening on the replay. Leave a comment. Let me know where you are. My name is Luke Slaybaugh. This is the Baltimore Orioles postcast after every Baltimore Orioles game right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.